So I think we'll start, and welcome everybody. Some of you were here last week, and I'm glad you can come back. For those of you here last week, but those who are new, just explain a little bit about this series and what we're trying to do. You know, there are really two kind of overriding objectives to this. One is that we want an event. We've been doing this since the beginning of April. Many of you have been on and off, and some of you are very regular on these calls. We're we can have an event that keeps the community connected, and we feel that's important at this time. So it's faculty, students, members of our boards, friends of them. They're invited to this. They're all part of the Merrick School community. And this semester, we decided we would center this on the second objective, really, which is center this around a theme. So we're discussing every week, what will the world of business be like post-COVID-19? That's our kind of overriding theme. It's a theme that I'm sort of making as a kind of a key theme for the Merrick School of Business for this semester, because as I said last week, I think this is really important. You know, clearly for students, it's important. Practically, hopefully you'll learn something about how to position yourself and for jobs or for future jobs, so that's pragmatic. But I think you should have ambitions that go beyond that if you're a student, because I think you're going to be shaping this world as we come out of a crisis. There are opportunities to shape things in new ways. So understanding what's going on in that world of business, I think, is really important. And for our faculty, and this is where we also work with our friends in the business community. I think it's a very important theme. We've got to show that we're relevant. So understanding that what the world of business is going to be is going to play a big influence in helping us discuss what our curriculum should be for the future. So that's why we're doing this. And so I'd like to introduce our guests for this afternoon. It's Joan Worthington. So thank you very much for coming, Joan. And Joan is a Vice President of Professional Services for HireVue. We're going to discuss a little bit what HireVue does. It's a very interesting company. Joan has had a lot of experience really as a technologist, a technology leader. She's worked for the U.S. Securities Exchange Commission for a number of years as a technology fellow. She was a VP of technology at Davis Calibration. Started off your career, I believe, at the CSX in technology itself. So Joan has a undergraduate degree, a BS in Information Systems and Business from University of Baltimore, and also an MBA from University of Baltimore. And as I think you'll discover, is extremely committed to the university and to Merrick School. Joan is a member of the University of Baltimore Foundation Board, and if you look at look up and connect with Joan on LinkedIn, you'll see that she's connected with a lot of community activities. So as well as having a job we're just talking about with immense amount of travel, is immensely connected to and committed to the community. So and also you love to run, I know that. But
yeah.
So that's and so the format, Joan and I talked about the format we used last week. I'd ask you to keep your microphones muted, and if your Kathia is going to be monitoring you, by the way. So, but but the format for this, I'm going to spend a few minutes talking to Joan, and then I'm going to break us out into little groups and have a discussion about some of the themes that Joan has been talking about, And then we'll come back and there'll be a chance for you to post questions and we'll have a discussion about that. So, Joan, I think that, maybe the starting question is, HireVue may not be known by a lot of people, but, I know it's been in business for over 14 years at least, so why don't you tell us a little bit about what HireVue does and what you do with HireVue, just so we've got a kind of context here, okay?
Okay, well, thank you, Gene. Well, I'm going to ask, has anybody taken a HireVue interview? Has anybody? You can take yourself off mute for a minute if you say yes. No. Okay. Well, HireVue is a video interviewing company. We're the largest globally. And we started in Utah many years ago as a college project for the owners. And it has grown over the past 14 plus years. And in fact, we just hit our 16 millionth interview this summer. So we've done over 16 million interviews. On a daily basis, we do about 15,000 to 25,000 interviews a day. So what does that mean? So what that means is companies hire us and they want to interview for different, job roles. And so you apply, you make it through that first round of checks, and they'll send you a link. And that link, when you open it up, it's an interview. Usually it's somebody starting it off by saying, "Hi, I'm Joan, I'm with HireVue. We're here to interview for this position." You listen to that. Then there are questions that you answer, and they're video related questions. And then once that's saved, then the interview is saved. It's a cloud-based software, a SaaS product, software as a service. And so then our clients are able to review all their interviews and to determine who to take to the next level, who they want to bring in either for an online interview or, when the world gets back to it, for in-person interviews. All right, so that's the main basis of what HireVue does. And it is, like I said, we do a lot of interviews a day. We have clients all over the world, and I'll get to this in a little bit, where we're seeing the biggest growth, around the globe right now. And we have 3 different kinds of interviews. One is that one I just talked about, that you get a link and then you're able to answer the questions. That's what we call our on-demand interview. And we work with the clients to develop the questions. It's usually 6 to 8 questions that you get on that. Another type is what we call Skype on steroids kind of, interview. It's a live interview. It's what I'm sure a lot of people are doing right now, using Zoom or WebEx or Teams. But it's specifically built for interviewing, and you can have panels. And with the live interview, you're able to have standard questions that you ask. You're able to rate the candidate, and it's all within a very secure environment. So that's one of the big things with that. And then the third major tool we have is our artificial intelligence. And so we've worked with clients who are doing high volume hiring. And so let's say banks, they're, hiring, tellers. They need to hire hundreds of tellers a week, and they need to go through. So we work with them to build an algorithm that listens. It's just to the words. It's not doing anything with the face or anything like that. It's listening to the words you use. And it's built an algorithm behind it that says, based on their responses, you probably want to look at these people first. And so we then serve up who the client should look at first. So the AI tool is very popular, like I said, with the super high volume, when you just don't have enough time to go all through the resumes. And the process that we have enables the clients to go through that, but we keep the candidates in touch. We've got a really strong communication system. So candidates know where they are in the process. They when it's been submitted, what the next steps are. And we work really closely with the clients to make sure there is, a streamline going through. So in a snapshot, that's what HireVue does. We're based in Utah, 350 people. Back to you, Dean.
And what do you do?
That's a good question.
Right.
So what I do is my team deploys the software. So as soon as a client signs up, somebody on my team is going to work with the client. The normal engagement can be anywhere from 2 weeks to a couple of months, depending upon what we're doing for them.
Right. So what sort of changes are you seeing, in the pandemic, and I mean, in some ways, how is the pandemic affecting your clients?
That's a good question. And, it's really good to be a global leader in video interviewing during a pandemic. So, because for those clients who are hiring, and there's still a lot of clients that are hiring out there, we've seen a shift. We definitely have seen some clients that aren't hiring at all, but we still have a lot of hiring going on. That we have, just since the beginning of the year, done 2 million interviews. So when you think about just in our 14 plus years, we've done 16 million. To do 2 million just in the, just this year, it's a pretty significant impact. And just today, we got our largest contract ever. So right before I came on, we've been watching for that one, but our largest multi-year, multi-million-dollar contract came through. And so we are seeing an increase in what we do.
And I think that, I think the students particularly be interested in, who's hiring, and what type of companies,
That's a good question. And I'm going to send you, because I have a chart. I pulled this off because we have a blog and we've been doing a lot of analysis. We're very data driven, just like any technology company, any company, you're really data driven. So who we have been seeing the biggest hiring for most recently is food and beverage companies, communications companies, the government by far is where we've seen a 600 plus % increase in the government hiring with us. Consumer goods is also hiring, and grocers, as you would expect. When the pandemic hit, we had some grocers that we were already working with nationally and internationally. We ran a COVID special that we would get clients up and running within 2 weeks. We had a lot of grocery chains take us up on that to help them grow. So grocers have been a biggie.
And I mean, who do you see as used to be your big clients, but the pandemic has affected them the most?
Airlines, that's been a biggie. A significant impact. Airlines aren't hiring right now, which you would expect. But we've seen an uptick in other ones. So, and what we've seen is, even though we've been in the business for a while and we always say people are used to talking on their phones and video, companies haven't been embracing it as quickly as we're seeing it now. So it has taken many clients that were testing the waters to doing a big bang right now. They're going big. One example is the American Association of Medical Colleges. They've been testing us out on some different, residency programs. They offered a big program right now just for medical college applications. And so that has been, we see thousands a week now come through because now they're in their application process. So there's been that shift.
Yeah, in government hiring, actually I'm looking at the chat box. Ted Peters asked this: who in the government hiring? Is it federal, state, local, or is it spread across?
I'm seeing it mostly in the federal.
Okay.
Federal government, yes, that's where big intelligence, those areas definitely.
And a big issue that we're talking about in this series is that there are for what you're seeing in your clients, and I'm sure you're hoping that this trend continues for your business, but either in your business or in your client's business, what changes do you think are going to endure beyond the at the next stage? Presumably there's a future where there's there's a post-pandemic world. You know, what do you see that people are learning that will not change and we can expect in this future world?
I think you're seeing this is that people are working remotely, of course, and a lot of companies are deciding to get rid of their office space or to really reduce that. So from that perspective, what we talk about is then that opens, you know, we're not limited to where you're working within a certain region anymore, that you can go beyond just your geography with companies. So we're seeing that is a trend that will continue. Even HireVue, we're looking to reduce, you know, our footprint. We're going to have some offices in Utah, but we're not going to have big ones. We've gotten rid of our office in the UK also right now. So companies are definitely moving in that way.
And when they, for HireVue yourselves, I mean, you talked about the kind of products. You know, what are the skills that you're looking to, you know, to acquire? If you're looking to hire, you know, one of our students or somebody, maybe it's been out, you know, 2 or 3 years, you know, that's been, you know, graduated like yourself from the University of Baltimore. What would be the kind of what are the critical skill sets that are in demand at the moment in HireVue, and then also in your clients, you know?
Well, and I can talk about this with the clients that we're working with. So my team is technical. We're not doing the coding, but we need to understand the system, and we need to help the clients figure out the process that's going to work for them on the implementation, where they will get the largest return on their investment. So having technical, you know, expertise is important with our team. Being able to communication is always the number one thing. You know, being able to communicate within the team where we're deploying, but with the client, that has to be, and it will continue to be an important factor as we go through. You still need people to talk through things and keep it organized. We have our data analytics team is really growing. You know, not only with our artificial intelligence tool, we're collecting a lot of data. We have a lot of information on, you know, interviewing, just because we are so large and have been doing it for so long. So taking that information and using it in different ways, I think understanding how to, you know, digest that information is really important. And I know with the information systems degrees that you know, that side of things is really important. What else? If I were to think, what else would be? We have engineers definitely on the team. We have salespeople that need to be technical and be able to work with the clients. We're, you know, often looking for salespeople. I found HireVue on Indeed. You know, it just came up one day, and I looked at it and I said, this is when I was leaving the Securities and Exchange Commission, and I was like, that's what I want to do. You know, so those things happen where that's, you know, what I wanted to do, and with the deployments.
That's neat. And what about there are some students on here who are I know I can see some of the names. I know our HRM students, human resource management. What do you see as happening in the human resource departments that they should be aware of if because they're setting their career to go into HRM?
Yeah, and I have a lot of people. I should have brought that one up. Duh. That seems like the, you know, one you should bring up. I have a lot of people on my team that are HR experts. They've spent time in talent acquisition. You know, we are, you know, diversity and inclusion is very important, and it is larger on the screen than it ever, and it should be. And so how we are hiring, you know, and how people are using the HireVue tool to help them and look at the adverse impact, you know, so that we are hiring across the board in an equitable fashion is critical. That is absolutely critical. Understanding how to help people, companies use a process where they're able to, you know, connect with the candidates. That's a big thing we look at, is how are we, because Delta is a great example. So Delta's not hiring right now, but they are a big client of ours. What's important for them is their candidates are also their customers.
Mm-hmm.
So they want people, even if they're not going to get the job with Delta, they still want people to be, an avid customer. So how are you setting up your processes and engaging with your candidates? So even if they don't get the job, they still want to be, connected with your business, because that's really important. That's something that most large companies really look at, especially when it impacts, such a broad cloth.
That's great. I think this is time. There is a couple of questions just come up, which we'll save, and we'll come back to when we get back together. But I think it'd be a good time for people to break into groups. Again, I explained to the people who were here last week. I said that our intention was to, although I did get some feedback that we would that you liked the way we did it last week. Originally, we intended to have all the faculty in faculty groups and students in student groups, and we'd spread the guests around. But I said to the students, we're doing that because I didn't want students to feel that if you were in a group with a faculty that it was like a class and that you were going to be assessed. You got an equal voice in these groups. But there's a glitch on Zoom when you have a Zoom series about setting up pre-assigned breakout rooms. So we're going to do it randomly. So you don't know who you're going to end up with. And Joan, if you want, you can if you came back after about 7.5 minutes or so, and
okay.
I'll try and reassign you to another group. Okay, I think you can say leave group on your thing, and you come back into the center. So I'm going to break this into probably a little bit bigger groups than last week in case people leave. Right, so this should be starting now, and then we'll do this for 15-20 minutes, and in each group, make sure you're able to come back and at least one person is able to post some questions. Okay, thanks. You okay, Danielle?
I still hurt.
Oh dear. Didn't put you in a group?
No, I'm not going to talk.
All right. Okay. Quite right.
I'm kind of mumbly.
I'm
just getting feeling back.
Right. There's 4 students here. Crystal Nicole, Joshua, Therese, Ashley. Take these names, by the way. Oh wait, there's Therese. Somebody went away. Okay, went to a group. Oh, Crystal didn't. Yeah. Therese? One thing I want to be aware of is that Kevin, for his classes, said he would get some credit for coming today. And so what I want to make sure that these are not students who just came in to get the credit and didn't participate. Okay. Sneaky. Therese, you can't. Oh, I see. All right, you can't talk. Okay, that's fine. I get it. Don't worry.
So tomorrow is the CAMI event.
What event is that?
The cyber.
Yeah. I'm hoping that Roberta's going to do that.
Yeah, he's going to be there.
Yeah, I'm in this workshop, you know,
Oh.
with Innovation Works, and I didn't really, you know, it starts earlier than I thought. So I mean,
Yeah, it's only, I sent the schedule or the itinerary. It should be about an hour.
yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I mean,
Make sure you
yeah,
register. If you're going to be able to go, use that link to register.
I should. Yeah,
I'm not sure how many people.
I don't know. I asked Roberta to look after that, but
Yeah, I left it with him too.
yeah.
But
we
he
don't
did it.
so
He
much.
did the video for, you know, the surprise.
Ah, that's good. Good. Yeah, this workshop I'm working in, the technology is not working very well for it.
Mm.
You know, they're using this system AirMeet, which on paper looks good. You know, it has like tables you can go to. You know, you get assigned tables, but you can also circulate and network and do speed networking and things like that. And it has that kind of a auditorium where the speakers are on and they're asking questions. You can ask questions either by chat or you can get up on the platform and ask a question and have a dialogue with the speaker. You know, that's quite good. But there's a lot of technical glitches. You know, my group, you know, we get assigned to groups of people who are, you know, in between sessions. I'm working with them on they're entrepreneurs, working with them on their working plan, their plans, and they work through these exercises. My group are working through the exercises yesterday, and looking at the timetable, we're meant to go back to the main session. There's some glitch, so the main session has already started, and you had to refresh your screen. And I went on, then I went on Zoom today because the screen sharing wouldn't work properly, and so people were working on spreadsheets. You know, you're trying to understand what people are saying on spreadsheets when you can't see the spreadsheet. There was all sorts of glitches. But what I also observed is that no one, including myself, not very many people were particularly interested in taking up the social aspects of it. You know what I mean?
Oh, I do.
I came in early this morning to it because I wanted to see whether my group wanted to have a chat beforehand. You know, if anyone had thought about anything overnight. So one person was there, you know, early, but she was just there early to log on. And she chatted a little bit, you know, socially. But the other two people came at the very end, you know, just as the session was starting. But I looked around. I was going to go and walk around, but I was doing my emails as well. So, I mean, I think everybody.
Yeah. So the U.S. news rankings came out today.
Oh yeah, I have to look at that. Yeah.
I have to see where we are. I didn't have the heart to do it today.
Yeah.
It just
let's look at
makes
that.
me sad. It makes me sad just how far we've gone.
Yeah.
As long as we're above Towson, that's all I care about. Last year we were tied, but I'd like to be ahead.
We get a lot of exposure on we got a lot of exposure with MacBook this year.
Oh, good.
So I hope that helps.
Well, for grad, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, but we've done these ACSB things. And,
There's just so many other schools, you know. It's just.
I know.
Unless
you know, if you see you're clustered with as well, you know, sometimes you feel, well, I really don't want to be in that company, but say, well, wait a minute, yeah, that's not too bad, you know. You know. So.
Yeah. But I don't think I'm not sure if I sent the information over to the main university to let them know about the social mobility one. But I doubt they're going to do anything with it.
Yeah. We'll probably not. Let's see.
Crystal was kicked out of her meeting.
She was. What happened, Crystal?
She was kicked out.
I'm not sure. I was kicked out of the meeting.
Oh, okay. Which room? Wait, let me see. Which room were you meant to be in?
I know Professor Bento is my professor.
Yeah. Huh. That's a glitch. Let me see if I can find where she is. That's a breakout room 4.
I was in 5 if you want to send it.
There's also very few people in 2, but we're going to come back in a few minutes. I'll send you to 2 quickly. How's that, Crystal?
Okay, that's
try
fine.
anyway.
Thank you.
I'll try and send you to 2, okay?
Yeah.
Now I'm having trouble getting you to, that's funny.
Can you, Crystal,
Wait a
do you
minute.
have the little box that says breakout rooms at the bottom?
No, I got it.
No.
No?
Let me see. I got, oh wait. You were in 5, you said before? With Ben?
No, I was.
And I think Regina's in 6. Yeah. Oh, I'm sending you back, okay? It should work. Sometimes reassigning didn't work. It says
Thank you.
you're
I see the
reassigned.
join button now. Thank you so much.
All right, good, thanks. Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye. That's weird.
That's weird. Everybody, it could have been user error.
Yeah, she may have been playing around at the bottom.
Oh, are they coming back?
It's another person back.
What time did you say coming back?
Well, I'm just going to do it now. I'm going to close the rooms in about less than a minute.
Okay.
Some groups have only got, it's funny, see, there should have been 5 or 6 in each group, but some people, I made the group slightly bigger this week so that we didn't get small groups, and I ended up with one group with 2 people. 3 people. Now 2 people, Steve's left. I close the rooms now. Do it, kind of have them come back. Yeah.
Kathia, I will make sure there's muting and then you can do chatting.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah. And people are just gradually coming back. All right, I hope that was good, and got people together. Good. Let me start, and Kathia is going to help me here. And there was a couple of there were a couple of questions just before the break, and I'll start with these, and then that'll give you a time, each of the groups to keep posting, and we can keep going. Okay, so Heather Dugan actually asked a nice question about your company strategy, Joan, and do you think the company will be able to, and I guess the company, do you have a desire to move into other markets other than HR services, other markets that would use the same platform? So you're muted. Yeah.
On mute. I was looking for it. Right. I was like, where's my mute button? Yeah. So right now the strategy is to stay in the HR space because we think it's ripe for that. We had a big study done by a Boston Consulting Group done last year. We were invested in by the Carlyle Group. So as they were doing their due diligence, Boston Consulting Group was working on looking at the industry and industry trends. And there is so much out there in the HR space. And there's a lot of different technologies. So, it won't surprise me that we'll be looking at other technologies that would fit in well with the HireVue tool. We look at the life cycle starting from the applicant tracking system. So that's where you first, apply is in the applicant tracking system. And usually we're tied to most applicant tracking systems right now, the big ones. There's something called Connexa, Taleo, Workday is the biggest one. You see that when people are playing golf and, they have the sponsorship. So we're connected with all of them. And so that's where I see the biggest growth that we've tried in some other areas outside of HR. We're best suited for the most part with HR.
Mm-hmm. And what are, what are some of the success metrics that you have in terms of your candidate retention? Do you do better than your competitors? Or do better than other methods?
We do. So because like I said, we're focused on the metrics. So we look at take rate. So how many candidates are sent those links and how many complete it. We can tell you when they've clicked on it, how far they go through. So we're constantly honing the communication process, whether it's email or texting that we're sending to the candidates to get them to complete. So take rate is number one on that one, and also filling the positions. So, did we get enough of a pool that we're able to help fill those positions? And then the third one is the communication that we have built in. So, we have emails that are sent that let the candidates know, all right, this is where you are in the process, this is what's happening. And it also connects with the applicant tracking system. So if there's dispositions that go along, because that's what we hear a lot from candidates is you submit your resume and you never hear back. And the clients don't want to do that. They want to make sure they're connecting. So that's a big focus.
Hey, Murray, if I could, because Joan, this is Don, that was my question. Maybe I didn't structure it properly, but one thing I wanted to know is on the success metrics, if someone's hired that way through HireVue, are you seeing there's a good success rate that people are staying in the job, or are you finding that maybe something's missing and people are falling out after, I don't know, pick a number, 1 month, 3 months?
That's a good, yeah. We track that, especially with the candidates that go through the AI tool. We track who stays and performance metrics. We work with the clients to say, all right, what performance metrics do you want to see? All right, there's a global cosmetic company we work with. So they have retail folks. They still do. They're still hiring for that right now. A little less, but they still are. And so they are tracking how the sales are going. So they're comparing, and they are seeing just on through using our artificial intelligence tool that those that they've hired from that have then sold more than those who have not come through that path. And it's not that our tool is deciding who to hire. The client still talks to the candidates to hire. It's just helping them rank who they should look at first.
That's great. Thank you.
Sure.
Here's a question that's very much geared to for students, but and it comes from Kevin. So Kevin, if you want to add to this as well, but the starting question, if you're giving advice to our students, how should they prepare and present themselves to have the best chance for an interview?
Wow, good one. Yeah. It's still, people still look at resumes. So there are still resumes, but it's not as much, but having the right words, we all know that. You've got to make sure it's professional and has the right words in that. But when you get that on-demand interview, a lot of our clients are not doing resumes anymore. They're going right to the interview. And what that gives you is, that gives you a chance to sell yourself and really come through, bring your personality through, bring your expertise. And you've got to handle it just like you would a traditional interview. You want to look the part. I put on a blazer today. Okay, I have jeans on that have holes, but it's okay. You're only from here to here. So that's all you got to worry about, right? So you've got to look the part. You've got to, say the right words. You've got to have practiced and done your research. And when practice taking a few of the questions so that you can just get comfortable with it, so that when you're ready to go, and then your energy will come through. So still, as with, traditional interviews, that's really important, even when you're online.
Yeah, thank you, Joan. I should have prefaced by saying that, we have a career services center here at UB, and there are a number of best practices in terms of preparing for interviews. We talk about both formally and informally. I think we have a class on professionalism type of topics, but it's great to hear from your perspective too on this type of question from somebody who's a leader in a company like HireVue. So
thanks, Kevin.
I think that was a question from a student actually in our group. So.
Okay,
good.
Can I add one more point to that? Because the University of Baltimore network is still really strong. I got contacted from somebody recently as last week, who I know through my UB network, who saw that I'm with HireVue, who's interested in talking to HireVue for his company. So the UB network is strong, and I highly recommend capitalizing upon that. Even when you're virtual, you guys are doing things like this, which is super important.
If I could chime in, Kevin, you asked a great question, and I'm glad, Joan, with your answer, because that's exactly what I said to my class last week, since I get to teach our professional behaviors and business skills class. And Josh is in my class, so he can vouch for me that I said, if you're having to do one of these interviews where you're being asked questions and recorded, practice, dress appropriately, do your research. So, see, I don't make this stuff up, Josh.
Joan, maybe this can bring the point we discussed in the group. How can the students access this tool for practicing?
We have a way for schools to use HireVue, so that I can work with you to get that set up. And I know that your Career Center also has another tool that they have available to you. So you have one out there already, and then we can work to get HireVue added to that, to get a feel for both. But you can practice as much as you want. We're not saving the recordings. Don't worry, these aren't going to go on YouTube or anything. It's just a practice.
That would be great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's two questions here, which are maybe a slight change in pace, and then we'll come back to some of these personal questions. There's two questions that are, I think, I'm going to try and connect together. One is a kind of a factual question, but but they're both interested in the AI side of it. Is how frequently is that being used? That's what Sherry wanted to know, and maybe. I'd be kind of interested in seeing not only how frequently it's used, but what's been the sort of pace of increase in that over the last year or so.
That's a good question. And I don't have the stats on that. I can follow up with what we've seen on the increase. I know it has been increasing. Most of our clients do not use the AI tool right now. Over 60% do not use that. If they are using it, it has to be said in the terms and conditions. You have to know this is going to be a video interview, that AI is going to be used. That is a law. You have to be able to do that. GDPR was big internationally in the European Union. They started it. Illinois was the first one within the states to put a law together with that. So we stay very closely on that. And that's important. You need to know when those tools are being used. Just to understand the impact.
It's a question that somebody else was looking at, because I think this is also implications for some career sets for our students, but the degree to which, as you're looking at your clients and their technology, I guess, is the degree to which this algorithmic management, which is not necessarily AI, but is kind of related to AI, is that something that that's being utilized more and more, or companies are shifting towards more of these, sort of, thinking of management as an algorithmic sort of set of tasks as opposed to I guess human contact or
the sign, yeah. So the question is, am I seeing clients that are using AI more from a management standpoint?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not seeing that. And I want to grab a book from my shelf. Where is it? Oh, it's right here. Hold on. I'm not going to strangle myself. There we go. So AI is just prediction. We all use Amazon. It recommends, hey, you bought this. Why don't you look at this?
Mm.
So that's what our tool does. It doesn't say, no, don't look at these. Just based on what you're looking for, we would look at these first. It just serves it up. Whether you use that or not is up to you. A really good basic book just to get really strong on it, which our whole company has read, and we talk about it with clients. It's called Prediction Machines. I highly recommend it. Really straight. You can see I've got tabs all through it on what to pull up when I'm speaking, but it's important to understand that.
I think that's right. By the way, I think that just as a kind of a footnote for future session in about 3 weeks' time, and Joan, you'll be interested in this. We've got a Georgette Kaiser who's an operating executive at the Carlyle Group.
She's at Carlyle,
she's also, she's also former CIO at Carlyle Group and also T. Rowe Price, and Merrick School graduate. She's coming, and that's one of the things I know that she's, Carlyle Group uses her as an operating executive to look at these types of issues and technology in their companies. So anyway, that was I'm going back to my question is people were kind of interested in some of the other skills. There's a little correspondence in the chat room about the other skills that go into interview, and these are people that obviously, these are students who are clearly, they follow a Dean Smith's class quite closely. But they were talking about, some of the qualitative skills that are taught in these classes, like eye contact and things like that. I guess that's one of the interesting things in terms of when you're working remotely, how that works and how that gets picked up in a setting.
Through the interviews.
In the HireVue setting,
Right, and most of our clients have what we call an introductory video that they do first, and it goes over, relax. You don't have to look at the, right at your camera the whole time. You can look down. You can have notes. So the eye contact, you can have, go back and forth and look at the camera, but it doesn't have to be, the whole time on that. And again, you just want to relax with it. We have a tool that also, if you're in the interview, we call it the screen, and it comes down, so you don't have to look at yourself the whole time if that's something you don't want to be looking at. So, to help you feel more comfortable in doing that.
There were a couple of other discussions, observations offline I saw in the chat room about that as well. I should have asked this one before because it would have been a natural follow-on, but it's from one of our other professors of information systems, who's looking at the type of when you're talking about prediction and talk about AI. I'm going to make sure I got the right. I don't know if you got this, Katia, from Anil. I just had it up there and I lost it for a second.
Is your AI tool keyword-based or text-based?
Text-based. So it takes all the words. It's not just looking for keywords.
Right. Good. So here's the question. Really, this is maybe a kind of a topic just to be our last topic, and then I probably got one, really closing, closing question. But and that is, there's a question here about remote working and whether, I guess it really is in two parts that are connected. But do you think the shift to increasing remote working will create a disconnect with team morale and communication of how do you communicate company culture? That this will potentially lead to increase in turnover. That's the first question. Maybe that's the first place to start. The shift in remote working, will it create disconnects in team morale, how you communicate company culture, whether that will lead then to increased turnover?
That's a big focus for us. We've been, like I said, I've been leading a remote team for many years. You've really got to focus on it, on how you go about it. So you have to give opportunities to connect. It seems pretty basic when you say that. Yeah, you do. But you do need to. And such as our first meeting, we have a 9 o'clock morning meeting on Mondays. And we just call it the Scrum. Everybody gets together, they talk about what they're going to be doing this week and talked about what they do over the weekend. It's a fast moving meeting, but it's just one way for us to connect and to start the week. And it gets some good mojo going. So you have to find times throughout the week to do that. That Monday morning meeting is pretty sacred to me to help the team stay connected on that. So we have focused on the culture. We have a culture committee. So the culture committee is taking different looks right now on what we need to be doing. The company, to give everybody a break, started back, I guess in May, that we have half-day Fridays. Every other Friday, everybody gets a half day. And, so things like that to build some excitement. We focus, we have a couple key meetings on the morning, and then you have the afternoon off. So, you've got to do things to help keep everybody, excited and engaged.
That's it.
And we love Slack. Everybody use Slack. Everybody who Slack is, we Slack. That's our instant messaging tool.
You kind of answered part of the second question, the second part of this question, which is how we will keep employees motivated in this remote working environment, but and this is actually a question we discussed a little bit with Brian Schwartz last week from PwC. Is there, do you see changes in the way performance is going to be managed? The way it's phrased here will be new systems of accountability, but I think that's the kind of a theme that we also kind of explored last week. That in this remote working environment, there's different ways of looking at performance. Yeah,
it is interesting. We've changed some of our processes just with our deployment team, and not that we're tracking, but we need to make sure we're on top of where things are. So we've instituted some different checkpoints when we're deploying systems, so everybody knows where it is. Because if everybody's remote, you're not running into somebody getting coffee and saying, oh, we're having this issue with the, Taleo integration. So how are we, making that in a way that's going to allow just a performance on our implementations from individual performances? We've got to track things really closely. We're running out of time.
We are, and this has been great. If you're in a sentence, this is my last question. We try and do it within the time, and then I'll thank you. You make an announcement about the next session. But I usually, when we do this in person, I usually ask the speaker to end up with advice to students. But I think you've already given good advice. In one sentence for faculty who are going to relook at this curriculum and make sure it's relevant for the post-pandemic world, what is the one thing you insist that they have to look at?
All right, you got to give me 30 seconds to at least think on this one to see what. Communication is still the number one thing you need to focus on. Even though everything in technology is changing, where we're working and who we're working with, how you communicate effectively is critical and will always be the number one issue.
Right. Well, thank you. That was great. I mean, this is an intriguing company, and I think it gives a look into into this. I think but for instance, with HRM students, I would really encourage you to keep looking. There are a lot of interesting new technology companies in HR, and this is an example of them. And so thank you very much for your time, Joan. And,
You're welcome. Thank you.
And next week we've got a good run of prominent Merit School graduates. Next week our guest is Lucy Ruthhauser. Lucy is the Executive VP and Chief Financial Officer for Sinclair Broadcasting, and which I think I mentioned last week. I think there's only 3 Fortune 500 companies in Maryland, and Sinclair Broadcasting is one of them, and they're the closest to UB. So I think that should be interesting. I know Lucy's a great supporter of UB and has hired UB students in the past, and I know she's got very, very firm, opinions about what people need to be successful in the finance function. So very interesting to look at this, and she's also got a very interesting story. Eusebio worked with her CIO with some students last semester. They've got a very, very interesting business model, which is, and you should come just to answer the question, what is the Sinclair Broadcasting business model? Because, and a little hint, you won't find it by looking at the 6 o'clock news. Okay, but it's
absolutely not.
It'll be fascinating. So thank you very much, and listen. I hope everybody has enjoy the rest of the week and stay safe. And again, Joan, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Okay.
You're welcome. Good luck, everybody.
Good night.
Thank
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.